Well, new controversy surrounding the Clintons after former President Bill Clinton visited Loretta Lynch on board a private plane at a Phoenix airport Monday evening. Lynch is overseeing, as you may recall, the FBI investigation into his wife's use of private email server while she was Secretary of State. Lynch insists that they did not discuss the probe.
Well, I did see the president at the Phoenix airport the other night. As I was landing, he was headed out. He did come over and say hello and speak to my husband and myself and talk about his grandchildren and his travels and things like that. So that was the extent of that. And no discussions were held in any cases or anything of that. And he didn't raise anything about that either. My agency is involved in a matter looking at State Department policies and issues. It's being handled by career investigators and career agents who always follow the facts and the law and do the same thorough and independent examination in this matter that they've done in all. So that's how that'll be handled.
Justice reporter Paula Reed is joining us now in Washington. Paula, what are the details that your sources are saying about exactly what went down at this meeting?
It sounds like former President Clinton really put the Attorney General in a difficult position when he saw that she was at the same airport. He wanted to stop by to say hello, despite the fact that she is currently overseeing an investigation into whether or not Hillary Clinton's private server resulted in the mishandling of classified information. Now, former President Clinton and his foundation are also tangentially involved in that investigation. And it appears that once he got on the plane, it was really up to the Attorney General to handle this very difficult, very awkward situation by doing something very difficult and awkward, and that is asking him to leave her plane, telling him, look, not the time, not the place, we can talk after the investigation. But Rena, she did not do that. They had a chat. They chatted for several minutes about golf, they say, and grandchildren. But as a result of this meeting, as a result of those discussions, they now face considerable political problems.
A lot of people buzzing about this one. So the bottom line, Paula, really is this meeting was not scheduled.
An aide to former President Clinton tells us that this meeting was not scheduled. When he realized that she would be at the airport, he wanted to say hello. They say that this is a courtesy that he extends to many dignitaries. Now, she does have an FBI security detail, and while they will certainly turn away strangers or any unscheduled guests, it is very difficult for them to, of course, turn away the former president of the United States. So it's really up to the Attorney General to put a stop to this meeting, to ask him to leave the plane, and she did not do that. And as a result, they're really facing quite a firestorm today.
I'm curious, Paula, about how this is going to impact the investigation going forward. Even before this happened, I know Senator John Cornyn had called for a private investigator, a special prosecutor to look into this. Do you think that those calls will be heard?
That's the big question here, Rena. There's no more controversial or high-profile national security investigation in the country, and it's been plagued with questions since the very beginning about whether or not Attorney General Loretta Lynch and the Department of Justice can objectively investigate this. So the optics with this meeting really sort of do call into question whether or not they can now. Previously, the Attorney General has said repeatedly that this case is being handled by experienced prosecutors. They'll look at the facts and they'll make a recommendation to her. This is just how the Petraeus investigation was also handled. But it is ultimately up to her whether or not to agree and act on that recommendation or whether or not to go in a different direction. And that's the final question here, Rita, is whether or not she will still be the person to make that ultimate decision. Experts tell me it is very unlikely that she would be removed from the case. Marina, I'll tell you, this case, the Hillary Clinton investigation into her server and whether or not classified information was mishandled, it is unlike any other case in the U.S.
It's certainly getting a lot of attention, too. But while I have you, Paul, I want to ask you, give us a little bit of an update here. What is the latest on the FBI investigation into Clinton's private email server?
We're told the investigation is in its final stages. FBI Director James Comey says he keeps close to the investigation. He gets regular updates, but we haven't been given any timeline about whether or not we'll get a resolution before the conventions or even before the election. Now, what's really interesting is usually if you do not charge someone, you don't come out and announce, we decided not to charge them because. And we've repeatedly asked the head of the FBI, will you make an exception here? If you decide not to bring charges against Hillary Clinton or anyone else in this case, will you issue a final report? And he used to tell us, no, I will not. But the last time we asked him about a month ago, he said he's not sure. So, Rena, it's really unclear when, if ever, we'll get a resolution to this case.
I know a lot of people very curious about this and the timing as well. Paula Reed, who covers the Justice Department for us in Washington. Paula, thanks for joining us.